We talk about the roster needing to be better, but in some situations, so do the coaches. What should DeMeco and staff leave behind in 2025?
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Battle Red Nation, from H-Town to your town. Today's episode and every episode of the Locked On Texans podcast is for Texan fans all around. Fun show lined up for you guys today. Going to dive into a couple of things. Number one, hey, listen, CJ Stroud said no to the Pro Bowl. My brother, I am with you. I support and I stand by your side. I think that's the perfect thing for CJ Stroud to not be around. I think for Stroud, it's important to lock in. So we'll dive into that to close out the show and what skipping the Pro Bowl actually means for Stroud moving forward. But the best of the 2026 offseason. Why do I think this offseason is really a blessing in disguise for the Houston Texans? Many people want to say they got a lot to work on. No, not really. They got one side of the ball to work on, and I think that is why I'm optimistic moving forward for the Houston Texans. So we'll dive into that in the second segment, but just the area of growth for both DeMeco Ryans and Nick Caley, the positional coaches, they follow their lead. DeMeco Ryans gave the play calling duties over to Matt Burke, the Matt Burke defense. Built by DeMeco, got to be at one point number one in the NFL. But there are still some things from a head coaching perspective and offensive coordinator perspective that both of the men need to be better at. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, bet just $5. You'll get $200 in bonus bets if you win. And as always, shout out to my everydayers from the Himalayas, making the Locked On Texans podcast your first listen of the day and making Locked On Network, the number one sports podcast network in the nation. So, we look at the 2025 season, and there were a lot of highs, right? There was a lot of highs. You talk about not losing a football game in 2 months. You talk about coming back from being down 0-3 to start the season. You talk about beating the Chiefs, beating Baltimore, beating Buffalo, beating Indy twice. You talk about all of these things. There were a lot of highs for the Houston Texans. You talk about beating the Pittsburgh Steelers and possibly, retiring Aaron Rodgers, and that being Mike Tomlin's last game. You look at the 2025 season, there are a lot of great takeaways. But there are some things that both, I look at DeMeco Ryans, I look at Nick Caley, and those two coaches need to be better at. Number one, I think overall, everybody can say it with me. 1, 2, 3. Better clock management. We all saw it. And the Houston Texans need better clock management and execution, especially with 2-minute drills going into the half or towards the end of the fourth quarter with 3 or fewer minutes left to go in the half, not including moments where Houston has won the game. So I'm not looking at kneel downs. I'm not looking at those type of things. I'm looking at when Houston still absolutely needed to finish the game to secure the dub. On 22 times, Houston was in these situations and was forced to punt roughly 8 times, turned the ball over 3 times, and only scored 30 points. Houston did score a touchdown twice. It felt like all season when Houston got in those situations. Yeah, and this is what really bothered me. It bothered myself. It bothered a lot of us, my colleagues in the press box. Like, it just bothered me to see when they got down to those 2-minute drill situations, or you look at 3 minutes with time clicking and you want to use a couple of timeouts, you start to see Houston lose themselves. And you see a complete lack of urgency from the Texans offense. And Houston would be in those moments with multiple timeouts and time on the clock and squander away a moment to put points on the board before the half. Right? And that bothered me. And I know it bothered the listeners and fans out there simply because this team continued to make it hard on themselves. And when they did not take those 2-minute drills seriously, and when they did not take just finishing all together, no matter what quarter it is, you put yourself back into a wall. And what did that lead to? What did that lead? It led to who having to save the day? The defense. And so they got to be better there. Not to be sitting there thinking to myself, where is the lack of urgency closing out these halves? And here are the facts. They are bad going into the half at scoring points and have shown a complete lackadaisical approach. You add that problem to wasting Houston's you add that problem to Houston's inability to score points in the third, where they average 3.4 points in the third quarter throughout the year. It's frustrating to see them be so careless and lack aggressiveness, which leads me to my next point. Houston gets a lead and goes conservative. All right. They go conservative when they get a lead, particularly in the fourth quarter of games. The script looks like run, pass on third down, and hope to convert and run again. That's the script in the fourth quarter. The most rushing attempts by quarter, the fourth, 145 for 3.8 yards per carry. When Houston is leading or tied against whoever they're playing, they become predictable. And it led nowhere for the Houston Texans offense. That is the trust the defense mentality. That's what it is. And you got to ask yourself, how much of that mentality, how much of that way of thinking has actually hurt CJ in the offensive progression, where they are put out there to not mess up. And because of that, now they're not playing with swag, or now they're not playing looser. Right? When leading or tied, Houston rushes the ball for 3.45 yards per carry on a combined 340 attempts. When they are trailing, 135 attempts for an average of 4.6 yards per carry. More passing attempts when they are trailing than when tied. Keeping the opposing defense honest really would help them moving forward. And I think their conservative approach whenever they get leads or how they close out halves really hurt them in 2025, and that needs to be something that they leave in 2026. Now, granted, you get Nick Caley, first year, calling plays, maybe he's not as comfortable. Also, he came into the season without Joe Mixon, without Tank Dell. Some of the things that he was looking forward to having, didn't have the ability to work with it, but this is where you possibly want to lean more on your quarterback, but your quarterback has to lean on another aspect of this offense to be successful, and the numbers show it. So when I look at what this 2026 offseason for Houston looks like and how, in my opinion, it's a blessing in disguise, it's simple. Do what worked best. And for the Houston Texans, the numbers support it, the eye test support it, and I think the front office and the coaching staff know they got to get to a place where their highs are more consistent than their lows. And to do that, get away from sticking with players because you like them. Get away from sticking with plays because you like them. If it's not working, get off of it. So now let's talk about the best part of this offseason. More Locked On Texans talk to close out. More Locked On Texans talk when we return back. I'm not closing out anything. We got more Texans talk, but it's a perfect opportunity to let you know about Gusto. Let's be real. No one starts a business for the joy of calculating tax withholdings or managing payroll spreadsheets. No one does that. That's where Gusto comes in to take the stress out of payroll, benefits, and HR so you can focus on running your business and supporting your team. Gusto is the all-in-one remote-friendly payroll and HR platform that makes managing your team simple, transparent, and fast. Whether you're hiring, onboarding, or paying employees, Gusto helps you do it all from one place without the hassle or hidden fees. Unlimited payroll runs for one monthly price, which means no surprise charges at the end of the month. Gusto's automated tools like offer letters, onboarding materials, and direct deposit saves hours every week. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/LockedOnNFL and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's right. 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com. That's gusto.com. Visit right now to get 3 months of free. Gusto.com/LockedOnNFL. Also, Texan fans and listeners out there, this is the perfect opportunity. Where my people that work out at? Where are y'all at? Well, let's talk about a company that has made it so much easier to rehydrate. Kicking off the year, feeling good is the goal, right? And honestly, hydration is the easiest win. When I stay on top of it, my energy, my focus, my mood levels all go up. But let's be real, plain water may not always cut it, especially when you're grinding through long days, hitting the gym, or just trying to stay consistent with whatever your health goals are. That's where Drip Drop comes in. Doctor developed, proven fast hydration that helps your body and mind work together in conjunction. You think clear, you focus, better energy, elevated mood, even that fresh skin glow. I love that it uses a precise ratio of electrolytes and glucose for a rapid absorption, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar than leading sports drinks. Drip Drop science-backed formula is trusted by firefighters, medical professionals, and over 90% of top college and pro teams because it rehydrates you faster and more effectively than water alone. Right now, Drip Drop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL. That's dripdrop.com. Promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 20% off. Stock up at dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Welcome back, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers. What is the best part of this offseason? Well, I can tell you one of the best parts of this offseason, being able to talk with you guys, right? And I want to thank you for making the Locked On Texans podcast your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you already have not done so, go check out the new Everydayer Club, where you get access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Texans, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcasting app. And this is also my personal invite to just talk to you, man. We got a members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show and myself to hang out, chop it up. And this is where I want to start pulling the ear to the street segments from. So go to LockedOnTexans.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. Texas fans, as we continue this conversation about, how I look at the 2026 offseason. Like I said, it is a pivotal offseason. Don't get me wrong. But it don't have to be a hard one. Like, this could be all common sense, right? You don't necessarily have to worry about a whole side of the field. Like, the defense is covered. I'll tell you why, but the defense is covered. It's all about the offseason, right? And it's all about knowing the needs of the improvement to get over the hump. And Houston has to feel some kind of way. When you take a look at the New England Patriots with 1 year under Mike Vrabel, they get to the Super Bowl. Mike McDaniel, 2 years to get to the Super Bowl. The same amount of time for Sean Payton in Denver to make an AFC championship game. They got to feel some kind of way, right? And I think that is burning them up. But I think it's clear what's needed moving forward based on the last 2 seasons. The data is out there. The eye tests are out there. You can put all of this together and figure out what the Texans need to do, and they will create a pathway to do it. They just got to be precise on it. No more bargain hunting to fix the offensive line, right? None of that. No more Laken Thomason business. None of that. No more City Soul. None of that. None of that. And the numbers support it. And the numbers supported directly to the success, tied directly to the success of the quarterback, when Houston rushes for more than 100 yards as a team. This is something that I picked up on early in the win streak. When they rush for 100 yards as a team, CJ Stroud, a 71.4 completion percentage, 8.4 yards per attempt, 14 TDs compared to 6 interceptions, and Houston is 71 in those games. Against New England, the last time we saw Houston, and that's going to be the last time we see Houston for a long time, they couldn't run the ball for nothing. And Stroud in the offense was heavily impacted. Can't run the ball, can't score points. Houston scored 16 points. 16 ain't enough. Woo! Yeah. No. They couldn't score points. They couldn't run the ball. All of that is tied to the impact CJ Stroud has. It's clear, it's obvious, and it should be addressed this offseason. And again, another great part of this offseason, trust that the defense will be intact for the following year. Derek Stingley, under contract. Jalen Petrie, under contract. Daniil Hunter, under contract. Azeez Al-Shaair, under contract. Will Anderson is under contract. Kamari Lassiter and Kalen Bullock are both under contract with the Houston Texans through the 2027 season. And in my opinion, this is the real key to this window. If Houston does not win while they have Kamari under contract, it's going to be disappointing because he's a true cornerback one in this league. And I know he like to be in Houston for the rest of his career, but they ain't going to be able to play everybody. And when teams come calling and they got a bag for Kamari, his agent going to say, son, I know you love the city of Houston. Everybody that comes to Houston love the city, but you got to go make this money. Kamari Lassiter, in my opinion, being signed through 2027 on a second-round contract is one of the keys to Houston having this championship window. And having him provides so much. So knowing that this defense is locked in for at least another year with Danielle Hunter and through 2027 with Kalen Bullock and Kamari Lassiter, I think that gives Caserio the power to focus on resources on the defense. On the offense, excuse me. Not having to worry about one side of the ball gives real flexibility to the Houston Texans, ladies and gentlemen. And lastly, like what don't work. A Laken Thompson ain't gonna work. Right? And I think what Jake Andrews is not going to work. Justin Watson and Braxton Berrios is not going to work. That didn't work in 2025. And for receivers, you got to look at Nick Caserio. Like, he held on to Robert Woods too long. But opted to move on from John Mechie, the younger player, who had arguably, in my opinion, from my eyes, the best training camp of any receiver for the Houston Texans in 2025. But he rolled with Justin Watson and Braxton Berrios. They combined for, I think, under 100 yards. It didn't work in 2025. Don't give them the opportunity to not work in 2026. And I mean that with the utmost respect to both men. Kay Stover didn't work. This offense needs two tight ends, and they need the ability for the tight ends to be able to block. Kay Stover has shown to be neither. Now, Brevin Jordan, who Houston signed to a one-year extension during the middle of the season, he'll come back. Hopefully he's healthy. But for the Houston Texans, a lot of other teams ain't banking on ifs, especially if the if isn't a player of monumental status. That's just a fact. Christian Kirk did not work. So I think it's a blessing to Houston to sit back and say, man, we were this close. We got the defense intact. Yeah, we were worried about, the D tackle unit, and that's where I think the draft will come into play, and they'll re-sign some guys to just shore up the defense. But the defense in itself, they're intact. Our focus should be the offense, and also understanding that while we need to make additions, it's important to view the subtractions that we need to make. Do not force these elements to try to work again. And because of this, replicating what worked and who worked is a smart way to go. So I don't think this is a real complicated offseason. I think this is we failed our quarterback. We failed our offensive coordinator. We failed our running game. All three of those things are tied to the lack of impact our interior offensive line had. Let's fix that. Let's get a quality tight end too in this building, and let's improve our running game. I think that's a smart way to go. And listen, there were some positive aspects from this season that will help the Texans in refining their roster during the offseason since they were so close to success. But again, understanding what worked and what didn't will help guide their assessment moving forward. Up next, you want to talk about guiding your assessment moving forward. CJ Stroud said no to the Pro Bowl. That was the absolute right move. So we'll dive into that to close out today's show. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. February can be a lot. You got flowers, candy, stuffed animals. Plus, don't let the team make it to the Super Bowl. Now you're stressed out as well. There's so much talk about relationships. It can honestly feel like everyone else has it all together in their love life. But here's the truth. Whether you're married, dating, single, or focusing on yourself, most people are still figuring this thing called life out. And no matter where you are in your romantic journey, therapy can help you find your way, the way that's meant for you. It can help you get clear on what you want, what feels heavy, and how to take pressure off of yourself. It's easy to assume everyone else has a perfect relationship, but most people are working through something. And even if you're not in a relationship right now, therapy can help you feel more confident in what you want moving forward. Even the Houston Texans, yeah, I know a lot of y'all ain't got a lot of confidence in your team right now. I'm joking, but I'm seriously when I say this. BetterHelp has licensed therapists in the U.S. and they do the initial match working for you so you can focus on your goals. And if you want to switch therapists, you can do that at any time. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/locked on. That's BetterHelp, BETTER, help, HELP.com/locked on. And also, Texas fans, you want to talk about the season that a lot of us may want to avoid. My goodness, y'all know it's tax season, right? I know it's tax season. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours and hours and hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person and connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every deduction. I love it, guys. It's helped me out the last couple of years. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150, all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get your life back. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. Closing out today's episode with CJ Stroud not attending the Pro Bowl. It was reported by Aaron Wilson that CJ Stroud declined a Pro Bowl invitation to focus on preparations for next season. And Warren Moon, Houston great quarterback, predicts a bounce back year for CJ Stroud. Called him a tough minded kid with a lot of pride. Yeah. I think for me, so I think CJ Stroud has been on a roller coaster that we haven't talked about a lot. From his rookie year, the highest of the highs, and going on tour with Micah and putting himself in the top five. And a lot of y'all didn't like that, but you know, I don't necessarily care that he did it or not. And I actually love a quarterback that got a little confidence and cockiness to himself. But that comes with the lows. That comes with not following up on that rookie season for 2 seasons straight now. That comes with not replicating moments, like he did against the Tampa, not replicating moments like he had against, the Cleveland Browns in that first playoff game, like not having too many of those moments over the last couple of seasons. And then you go from that to, blowing the Detroit Lions game. You go from that to losing to New York and Robert Saleh having your number. You go from that to 7 turnovers in 2 playoff games in 2025. All of that piles up on a young man. And I think the very first thing a lot of us brothers do and a lot of us men do, we retract. We retract. And I see the comments a lot, whether it's on social media or right here directly on the Locked On Texans podcast YouTube page, where you guys say things like he needs to get some therapy, he needs to, somebody needs to check him out with his mental. And some of you guys may be saying that out of malice. But the fact is, how that first year went compared to the last 2 seasons, mentally, that'll pile up on anybody. Your first year at your job is great to the point where they're saying, hey, man, one more year of how you're performing, and we're going to move you up to a senior level. In the next 2 years, it's like, hey, man, do I even still want to be here? Or, do I feel comfortable here? So I say all of that to say for CJ Stroud, in my opinion, saying no to the Pro Bowl, an event that, I'm a 90s baby, so I think we've seen great Pro Bowl performances, right? And the experience used to be different, but the event now, I think it lacks substance, right? It lacks excitement. It's not the same. And I think that for players, the benefit isn't really there anymore. And he didn't outright be a Pro Bowl quarterback. So now he's like who can we call to keep this thing going to the point where they had to call on Shadir Sanders. So for CJ Stroud, I think that that's a moment where he chose himself. And himself in a good way, focusing on next year. This is a young man that he had the shoulder issues and the questions about the shoulder, coming into 2025. Then we hear about lollygagging. Then he gets a whole new offensive coordinator. And the offensive coordinator that he got comes from a background of demanding more from a quarterback. So let's not even talk about, from a mental standpoint, what he may have experienced throughout the season and the highs and lows of not having Tank Dell and still maybe feeling like the throw is the reason why Tank Dell got hurt and not having him out there, and that's his boy, right? Having to lean on, this is a new guy in Jade Higgins. This is a new guy in Jalen Noel. This is a new guy for me in Braxton Berrios. This is a new guy for me in Justin Watson. This is a new guy for me in Christian Kirk. This is a new guy for me in Nick Caley. These are new guys for me in Ariante Ursery. I like the kid, but it can't. Ariante Ursery, but I like the kid. Is he Larry Tunsil? Houston traded Larry Tunsil. Like, all of these things are going on from for CJ Stroud for the Houston Texans, and I think getting away. It ain't running away. It's getting away from more distraction, because that's all the Pro Bowl is going to be. Cameras, questions, what happened, take us through, what did you see, if you could redo this moment. Like, all of that is distraction for a year that I'm sure he wants to put in the past and get away from and work towards being better for 2026. Because, hey, listen, we got to talk about this, because ESPN put the prediction for the extension for CJ Stroud where the guaranteed money ain't pretty at all. I think it was like 110. We'll have to talk about that. But if he doesn't have a great 2026, and I don't mean a solid 2026, I mean a great 2026 where CJ Stroud is touching 30 touchdowns, then that's going to impact so much for the young man for the immediate future. And the immediate future is the next 2 years. So I'm all for it, man. I commend them for saying no to the Pro Bowl. You guys didn't want me at first. I did not earn it at first. And I not even said they didn't want me. They didn't. He didn't earn it. He did not earn it. CJ Stroud was probably, if you look at the AFC quarterbacks this year, he was not top 5 throughout the year, all things considered. And getting to a place where, I wouldn't be surprised or shocked if we start to see workout videos within the month. Simply because I think he just knows he needs to be better. And putting it off for the Pro Bowl, it's ridiculous. Thank you for watching today's episode of the Locked On Texans podcast. Please be sure to subscribe, like, and comment on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. Follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12. Also on Instagram at SomeSportsGuy. The Discord server is up right now. So visit LockedOnTexans.supercast.com to get yourself signed up, because I want to hear from you guys. And also, hey, my message to CJ Stroud is this. Of course, I overreacted after that game. It was a god-awful game, but you got so much ahead of you, brother. Got so much ahead of you. And all it takes is a flip of the switch of one season. Why not 2026? Now, for the Texans, get that offensive line together. Don't put that young man back out there in a situation where even your running backs can't survive. Get better, be better, and then maybe for 2027, you're looking at a great Black History Month, because you'll be playing in the Super Bowl. And then, until next time, ladies and gents, Texas fans across the nation, peace.